Welcome everyone to the BS Review. We are here during our 31 Days of Halloween with a very special guest, and we have Tyler Calvert here, and we are going to be talking about our top 5 horror movie deaths.
And we're actually having this conversation live, and we have him down below you guys, so if we look down, it's because we're looking at Tyler and not you.
But we're going to count everything down and say hi, Tyler.
Hello, I'm live.
If you don't follow Tyler, you should. He has good stuff. So we're going to kick off with our number 5 choices, and I'm going to go first, and I'm going to pick one of the death scenes from You're Next. This is a home invasion thriller horror, and there's a scene towards the end, which, by the way, a lot of these are going to be spoilers for these movies, so just know that going in. But towards the end, the main girl, the final girl, ends up getting stabbed in the shoulder with a knife, and then the guy who stabbed her, she takes a blender and puts it in his head and turns it on, and then takes the knife out of her shoulder and stabs him, and it's just epic.
I forgot about that.
I had to look up the exact sequence because I knew that scene happened, but I couldn't remember exactly how it happened. But it's a good one. It's also one of my favorite horror movies.
Have you seen that movie, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time. I remember that movie coming out and then, everybody forgetting about it, but I did like it.
I know. It gets lost in the shuffle, but I still think it's a great one.
Mine was from Final Destination 2. Yeah, it's the one, it's not the, super famous one with the logs and all that. It's an extension of that because it's the girl in the car when the pipe that goes through the headrest in her vehicle. And it's a combination of things because it's a whole combination of deaths in that because you got that and then you got the gasoline trickling down. And as she's complaining while she's stuck in the car, the fireman uses that machine. I think it's the Jaws of Life or whatever, and he jams it into the car and causes her airbag to deploy. And then right after that, she gets the pipe right through her head, and because of that, she drops the cigarette she was smoking, and that ignites the line of gasoline, and it causes all this stuff to happen, explosions and all that. And then because of that, a big giant piece of a metal fence comes flying, and it takes out this dude and just chops him into a couple pieces, and it just goes right through him.
Funny enough, my number 5 pick is also from a Final Destination movie, but it's from Final Destination 1, and I chose the scene where, what's her name, she gets hit by the bus when she walks into the road. Well,
yeah, because you think everything's done, and then...
Alright, well, why don't you kick off our number 4s, Tyler?
I guess it technically counts as a horror film, but it's that chainsaw death in American Psycho. There's a scene in American Psycho where Christian Bale's chasing this woman out of their apartment, and she's running down this winding staircase, and Christian Bale he's chased her out with a chainsaw, Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. And as she's running down the stairwell, he drops the chainsaw down the stairwell and it somehow hits her and kills her.
Well, my number 4 is from the movie Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, whereas mine actually, my first couple picks were because they're unexpected, and mine is for the kid when they're all running away from him when he's also doing the chainsaw thing because he got attacked by bees, and they're all running away, and one of the kids runs right into a friggin' stick, like it's a tree sticking out of the ground. He just runs right into it, and it just surprised me, and I was like, ugh, and I think that death was the most horrific out of all the ones in that movie.
Oh, see, I disagree, because my number 4 pick is also from Tucker and Dale, but it's a different one. It's kind of a conglomeration of deaths, because it's the part, I think they're outside of their, cabin or whatever, and they're, accidentally killing kids, off one by one, and it's the wood chipper part. Because isn't there a part where a kid goes into a wood chipper
dives
as he's
over.
Yeah, and he's just I forget if it's Tucker or Dale, but he's just no! This is not what I wanted! And it's such a comical but horrific scene, which is just my perfect blend of horror.
My number 3 pick is a classic, and I think this one had to be on my list somewhere, and of course it is the alien bursting through the chest in the original Alien film. Because it's just such a classic death, and I feel out of a lot of those older movie deaths, that one still holds up, effects wise and the creepiness and just blood everywhere. A++ death.
My number 3 was from Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Well, and this one's not a good movie. This movie's not very good, and the title's very misleading because it's called Jason Takes Manhattan, but he's only in Manhattan for like the last 30 minutes of the movie. The rest of it's pretty much just him on the boat getting to Manhattan from Canada, I believe. But where Jason is fighting Julius, I believe his name was. I just recently watched it. He's fighting this Julius guy on a rooftop. And Julius is punching Jason like nonstop, punching him to the point where he overexerts all his energy. And then he looks at Jason and says, "Give me your best shot." And Jason just grabs him and then punches him in the face, and his head comes off and rolls down a building and into a trash can.
Alright, so my number 3 pick is also going to be a conglomeration of deaths from Cabin in the Woods, and it is the elevator scene. When the elevators open and all of the creatures come out at once and just everyone dies, and they focus on little bits here and there of people dying. And my favorite shot from that entire scene is when a guy's like crawling his way down the hallway and a little girl in like a white outfit is just like ever so slowly walking behind him. And then a few scenes later you just see her going after someone else in a different direction, just ever so slowly walking. It just is so creepy and I love it. So moving on to our number 2 choices, we're getting into our top picks. I'm going to go with Resident Evil, the first one, and it's the scene when they're down in the hive and the lasers come and just like crisscross, because it's like one line and you think you're going to be able to avoid it, and then it just expands into this like diamond-shaped crisscross thing and just like cuts the dude clean, not in half, but in multiple pieces.
He got cubed.
He did get cubed.
Mine is actually from Halloween, I guess it's technically Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Although I'm not a huge fan of that movie, I did always enjoy that death where Michael Myers grabs the dad from the Strodes, who was a huge jerk throughout the whole movie, which made his death even more satisfying. Stabs the dad and like carries him over to like the electrical like generator of like the house and stabs him onto it. And he just like electricity going everywhere. He's just like spazzing out with electricity. The house is flickering with lights and all that because it's all going through him, and he's like going all crazy, and then his head explodes.
My number 2 pick is from Cabin in the Woods as well, but I chose Chris Hemsworth death scene because I think that one was so great, because you're just so... The movie is moving in such a clear direction, and so far Chris Hemsworth has such a recognizable face, especially if you go back and watch it at this point, and you're like, man, there's no way that he'll die. And they just put him down in the quickest, just like, splat, and he's done, and it's gone.
So, my problem with this death scene is they give it away at the beginning of the film because they show you that the force field thing is there. I wish that they hadn't given that away to the audience at the beginning of the film, so then that would have been like a major shock to everybody, but that's just me. So my honorable mention is actually from The Descent, and it's not necessarily because of the actual death scene, it's because of the like circumstances surrounding it. So The Descent is about these girls who like all go down and do like spelunking down in an unresearched cave or whatever, and the main character girl finds out that one of the other girls had been having an affair with her husband, and so she basically cuts her in the leg and leaves her for dead so she can get away, because she's like, you slept with my husband, you can die, like, goodbye. And I just think it's like just such a brutal, so satisfying to the audience, like, scene, and you just hear her down, like, main character's running away, and you just hear her down, like, the tunnel, just screaming because all these things are, like, eating her. It's great. It's one of my favorites.
My honorable mentions were, well, the first one is an honorable mention just because of the fact that it's not actually a horror film, Bone Tomahawk. Yeah, it's fucked up enough to be considered a horror film. But there's literally a death in that that's really messed up, where, like, this guy gets, like, scalped, and then they, like, hold him up by his legs, and then they chop him in half, and then they pull him apart. They basically, like, crack him open, and it's really bad. I mean, I like gore, but, like, that pushes it to, like, a whole different level. And my other one was actually from The Omen. It was kind of a tie, because I guess in a way it's almost like a third honorable mention, because there's 2 deaths in The Omen I always thought were, like, interesting. One of them is the sliding glass decapitation in The Omen. Even though it looks completely fake by today's standards, but, like, the guy gets, like, a sheet, like, the truck bed with all the glass sheets on it, like, it backs up, and, like, it backs up, and because of it, it causes the force of the sliding glass to just come off the bed of the truck and just slices this guy's head clean off, and it starts flipping in slow motion. And the other one from The Omen is the guy that gets the giant rod through him in the ground. Do you remember that one?
I do remember that one.
Yeah, because he's like, ah! And the rod goes through him and he immediately stops talking. Kills him immediately, I guess.
Alright, well, with the number 1 pick, I went for a death that I have mentioned on our channel before because it's one of my favorites. And it is actually the garage door death scene from the original Scream.
Okay.
Because I love it. She crawls through the doggy door and he just starts running the garage and she's like just slamming into the top over and over again.
Poor Rose McGowan.
And it'll make you fear doggy doors because you're like, maybe I'd crawl through that doggy door. And then you just think of that movie and you're like, I should not.
It's like sticking your head out the elevator doors concept. It's the same thing.
And it's just great.
But as far as my number one, my number one's kind of a obvious choice, but it's technically 2 movies because you see it in other movies, but you don't see it really done until the end, and it's the reverse bear trap from Saw.
Oh yeah.
Because they show it a lot throughout the series, but you don't really like get the full effect of it, I believe, till like the last one. Well, the second to last one now, because Jigsaw came out. Because they put it on Jigsaw's ex-wife or widow or whatever, and like she can't get it off, and it just like opens her face.
So my number 1 pick is actually one that has already been mentioned because Steven has a habit of doing this in our top 5s. And my number 1 pick is Alien with the chest bursting scene. So the big reason I picked this one is because I really like the behind the scenes information around it because the cast, besides John Hurt, did not know that this was happening. And so the reaction you see on film is their true reaction to it because they had no idea that was part of the script. And I just think that's a really cool way to pull off genuine like horror in acting. I just thought it was really cool.
Splatter them with blood.
Well, that wraps up our top 5s. Tyler, thank you for joining us. Do you have any parting words?
I mean, I just had a really fun time talking horror movies. I mean, horror movies in October is like the way to do it. I mean, I love horror movies. I mean, I like horror movies any time of the year. I'm one of those weird people, but.
But thank you for joining us. We had a ton of fun. I think our top 5s were pretty varied. We didn't have a lot of overlap going on beside a couple with us, which is pretty typical because we share a brain. But I think this was a good time.
Yeah, I had a great time, and I loved our lists. But who had the best list?
Yes, please let us know your vote down below because this is a top 5 battle. And if you have a different list, leave those down below as well. And go subscribe to Tyler. He does a lot of similar things to us. He also does a lot of different things from us. As he said, he's a big horror fan. So if you agree with that and align with that, go subscribe. We will leave all of his links down below as well as that ranking video we talked about with Halloween. So you can compare our top rankings.
Yeah, I don't sleep, so I pretty much make videos consistently.
There you go. So you'll have some consistency if you go subscribe. It's probably be more consistent than our channel, so there's a plus on that one, because we won't be consistent outside of Halloween. I promise.
But we do have some more videos on the way, so make sure you hit the subscribe button on our channel too, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye!